Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Season 2, Episode 2 of Supergirl titled The Last Children of Krypton. Before I go any further, I want to specify that there will be spoilers in this review. So in this episode, Cadmus has their big coming out party. They've unleashed Metallo on Superman and Supergirl, and have announced to the world that they are here to take out our superhero overlords. In this episode, similar to last episode, there was a lot of superhero comic book goodness that I personally love. In this episode, we got a lot more interaction between the Martian Manhunter and Superman. We got to know a little bit more of why they have this animosity towards one another, and it's because while the Martian Manhunter has been head of the DEO, he has kept a cache of kryptonite just in case they need it, and this hasn't gone over well with Superman because, as we all know, kryptonite is the one thing that can kill both him and his cousin. This episode is also an episode of goodbyes. Clark tells Kara that he is going back to Metropolis, obviously where he is needed most, as we saw in this episode. Also, we find out that Cat Grant is taking a leave of absence. I think this probably has to do mostly with the transition from CBS to the CW, where they probably couldn't afford to keep this many regular cast members in the fold, so one of them had to kind of perhaps take a more part-time role, and I think that had to be Cat Grant's Callista Flockhart, which is very unfortunate because, as I mentioned last week, I thought her character was great on the show. I thought Callista Flockhart did so much with that character. As we saw in this episode, we see that Kara and Kat are growing closer and closer together, even though Kat still has that shield in front of her that you probably can never really take down. Speaking of Kara's boss, or Kara's new boss, man, what a jerk of a guy. I understand he has to be this kind of very harsh reality check for Kara. This guy is completely different than Cat Grant. I mean, he is no-nonsense guy who, right out of the gate, hates Kara. I guess he thinks that she is privileged or got this job just because of her friendship with Cat Grant or something like that. But it's going to be interesting going forward to see if we come to know why this guy is such a jerk. Also, we're starting to see how being both Supergirl and a reporter is going to kind of interfere with one another. We got to see the Fortress of Solitude again. We saw it a bit last season, but Clark wasn't there. And in this episode, we got both the Martian Manhunter and Superman inside of the Fortress of Solitude, interacting with it, trying to figure out the problems going on with Cadmus and Metallo and Kryptonite and stuff like that. Very interesting. I kind of hope we get to see the Fortress of Solitude more so and see what it actually contains, because for those of you who read the comics know that it is a large structure that contains a lot of stuff. Yes, I know it's not a Superman show, but if Kara's going to go there, at least flesh it out a little more. If you're going to give us these Superman type things, go full throttle. While in the last episode we got to see a lot of interaction between Kara and Clark, in this episode we got to see interaction between Kara and Alex. I got the feeling that Alex was jealous of Clark's relationship with Kara because although they are very close, Kara and Clark are actual family. So there's going to be perhaps quite some jealousy or some animosity there, which I thought was very interesting to see. It was also very interesting to see that Kara wanted to move to Metropolis so that she could interact more with Clark, spend more time with him, learn from him, which is kind of, I guess, necessary to her character because she is kind of still just starting out. Granted, she went through a lot of experience last season, but I guess it would be nice to actually learn from someone who seemingly has a lot of experience with dealing with adversaries. Speaking of adversaries, Cadmus is now here, and Cadmus is probably going to be a big adversary for Kara and the DEO for the rest of the season. As I mentioned earlier, they had their big announcement coming out party. It's very interesting to see what they're going to do from here, because if they have this cache of kryptonite, how are they going to further use it? It was nice to see Wynn's interaction with Superman in the episode, because he is kind of like probably I would feel in his situation, because he is a normal guy. We get kind of a very human perspective of meeting and working with Superman, meeting and working with your idol, which was very interesting. It was very funny and very nice at the end of the episode where Superman is saying his goodbye and Wynn just straight up hugs him. I mean, it's something I would do if I were in his shoes as well. I must also mention the great fight sequence at the end of this episode where we got to see Kara and Alex, who was in this type of kryptonite mech suit type thing, fighting Metallo, and then we got Superman and the Martian Manhunter fighting another Metallo in Metropolis. It was very interesting how kind of dark they went with the other Metallo attacking Metropolis and destroying. We saw the monument in Metropolis for Superman being destroyed. And also probably a lot of innocent lives dying, which was very interesting to see in a show that really hasn't shown us that type of collateral damage. But for me as a comic book fan, to see Martian Manhunter and Superman team up together was a very nice treat. Also, I have to say, the choreography and the editing and the way the action scenes were shot were very interesting. They reminded me a lot of the way Zack Snyder shoots his action scenes in the DCEU. They were very kind of close-up, very quick, very hard-cutting, very interesting the way they were kind of trying to adapt that to the small screen. Maybe I just saw that on my own and maybe others didn't notice it, but that's what it looked like to me. Overall, I really did enjoy this episode. Once again, I liked seeing Superman in the Supergirl show, but yet the plot consistently revolves around her and what's going on in her world. And I'm very excited to see where we go from here, because as we saw at the end of the episode, Mon-El wakes up, and he, right away, is going to create a problem. It's kind of a little convenient that as soon as one big Kryptonian leaves, another one wakes up all of a sudden. I thought they perhaps would have at least waited another episode for that to happen, but it is what it is. This has been my review of Supergirl Season 2, Episode 2, The Last Children of Krypton. If you like this video, please check out my other episode reviews of the other superhero television series.